The massive chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Hundreds of alien representatives from across the galaxy sat in their floating pods, all eyes fixed on the central display. Today marked the official presentation of the newest spacefaring race to join the galactic community, humans. Ambassador James Walker stood straight and proud on the presentation platform. He was a tall man with graying hair and wore a simple but elegant blue uniform. Behind him, the holographic display showed Earth's most advanced ships, floating gracefully against the backdrop of space. Admiral Vex, the Council's military advisor, leaned forward in his pod. His scaled skin reflected the chamber's soft light as he squinted at the display. "These are your warships?" he asked, his translator barely hiding the mockery in his voice. "Yes, Admiral," Walker replied calmly. "The pride of Earth's fleet." Laughter erupted across the chamber. Even the usually stoic rock people of Granite VI rumbled with amusement, their crystalline bodies catching the light. "But they're so small," called out one representative. "Are you sure these aren't scout vessels?" Walker smiled patiently. "No, these are our main battle cruisers. The largest is 300 meters in length." The laughter grew louder. Admiral Vex raised his clawed hand, silencing the chamber. "Ambassador Walker, perhaps there is some mistake. Standard battle cruisers in our space are at least 3,000 meters long. The smallest defensive ship in the Drachnid Empire is 800 meters. How do you expect to protect your trade routes with toys?" Walker's smile didn't waver. "Size isn't everything, Admiral. Our ships are perfectly capable of defending themselves and our interests." In the upper rings of the chamber, Technical Observer Reed of the Science Council studied his readings with growing interest. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he noticed something unusual. The energy signatures from the human ships were odd. They showed power levels that shouldn't be possible for vessels that size. "Ambassador," Reed called out, his tentacles waving for attention. "Our scans show some unusual readings. Would you care to explain?" "I'm afraid that information is classified," Walker replied smoothly. "We're happy to share our general technological level, but certain military specifications must remain secret." Admiral Vex snorted. "Secrets? What secrets could primitive vessels like these possibly hold? They wouldn't last 5 minutes against a proper battle fleet." The chamber erupted in another round of laughter, but Walker noticed a few representatives staying quiet. The more scientific races were studying the displays intently, their analysis devices working overtime. A deep voice boomed across the chamber. "Then perhaps a demonstration is in order." All eyes turned to the massive pod holding High Commander Kroll of the Drachnid Empire. His black armor gleamed as he stood, towering over his subordinates. "If Earth wishes to join our trading networks, they must prove they can defend their ships. This is our law." Walker had been waiting for this. Intelligence reports had warned that the Drachnids would try to block Earth's admission to the Council. They controlled most of the major trade routes and weren't keen on competition. "We would be happy to demonstrate our capabilities," Walker said, "though I hope it won't be necessary to prove ourselves through combat." "Oh, but it will be," Kroll rumbled. "The Drachnid Empire formally challenges Earth to prove its worth through traditional space combat. Unless, of course, you wish to withdraw your petition for trading rights." Walker looked around the chamber. Most representatives were grinning, expecting entertainment. A few looked concerned, probably worried about the diplomatic mess that would follow when Earth's ships were destroyed. None of them knew the truth. None of them understood what humanity had achieved. "We accept your challenge," Walker declared. "Name the time and place." Admiral Vex laughed again. "Brave words, Ambassador. How many ships will you need? 20? 30? Surely you'll want every advantage against even a small Drachnid battle group." Walker's smile finally showed a hint of steel. 3 ships will be sufficient." The chamber exploded in shocked whispers and renewed laughter. Even Kroll looked taken aback. 3 ships, Vex sputtered, "against a Drachnid battle group. This isn't courage, Ambassador. This is suicide. Perhaps, Walker said quietly. Or perhaps you should ask yourself why we're so confident with just 3 ships. As the chamber descended into chaos, Technical Observer Reed made a quiet note in his report. Something about the human ambassador's confidence disturbed him. It was almost as if they wanted this fight. The stage was set. In 3 days, the galaxy would learn why you should never judge Earth by its size. 3 days passed like a slow heartbeat across the galaxy. News of the upcoming demonstration spread rapidly through every major spaceport. Betting pools opened up, with odds heavily favoring the Drachnid Empire. After all, how could 3 tiny human ships stand against the mighty Drachnid fleet? Commander Tom Miller sat in the bridge of the Earth-ship Swift, reviewing battle plans with his 2 companion ship captains via secure hologram. Their vessels waited quietly in Earth's orbital dock, looking almost fragile next to the massive alien trading ships that now frequented Earth's space. Status report. Miller called out to his crew. All systems green, replied his first officer, Linda Ross. Her fingers danced across the control panel, bringing up detailed system readouts. New fusion core is purring like a kitten. Weapons are primed and ready. The hologram of Captain Robert Hayes from the Thunder spoke up. My crew's ready too, though I still think we should tell these aliens what they're really in for. That would spoil the surprise, answered Captain Mary Wilson from the Lightning with a grin. Besides, Intel says the betting odds against us just hit 500 to 1. My whole crew put a month's salary on our victory. Miller smiled but kept his focus on the mission. Remember the plan. Let them underestimate us. The more they laugh, the harder they'll fall. A calm light flashed on Miller's console. It was Ambassador Walker. Commander, Walker's voice came through clearly. The Drachnids just arrived at the designated coordinates. 15 warships, including their new dreadnought. Miller whistled softly. 15. That's not a battle group. That's half their fleet in this sector. They're putting on a show, Walker replied. The Council observation ships are already in position. Every major race sent representatives to watch. The Drachnids want witnesses to our humiliation. Then we'll make sure they get a good view, Miller said firmly. Any last-minute intel? Walker's voice turned serious. Yes. Technical Observer Reed has been asking questions about our power systems. He's sharper than the others. Be careful about showing too much too soon. The 3 Earth ships powered up their engines. To the alien observers, the soft blue glow seemed pathetically weak compared to the massive fusion torches of Drachnid vessels. As they moved out of orbit, a massive alien trading ship passed nearby. Its captain hailed them on an open channel. Brave little humans, the alien's translated voice dripped with pity. We will remember your sacrifice. Perhaps they will name an asteroid belt after your debris. Miller just switched off the comm. His crew stayed focused on their stations, each one knowing their role in what was about to happen. The 3 Earth ships formed up in a tight triangle formation, heading for the combat zone. Their small size made them look like fighters escorting an invisible capital ship. All ships, final checks, Miller ordered. Remember, no matter what they say, no matter how much they mock us, we stick to the plan. The combat zone was a clear area of space near Jupiter's orbit. The 15 Drachnid warships were already there, arranged in their traditional crescent formation. Each ship was a mountain of metal and energy, bristling with weapon ports. Their dreadnought alone was bigger than all 3 Earth ships combined 100 times over. The Council observation vessels formed a wide ring around the combat zone, their sensors recording everything. On their decks, hundreds of alien representatives waited eagerly for the show. High Commander Kroll's voice boomed across all channels. So the humans actually came. I was worried you might find your courage lacking. We keep our word, Miller replied simply. Then let us make this quick, Kroll said. I'll even be merciful. Surrender now, withdraw your trade route petition, and we'll let you live. Miller glanced at his tactical display. The Drachnid ships were positioning themselves exactly as Earth's combat simulations had predicted. Their massive size made their movements easy to anticipate. "That's a generous offer," Miller answered. "But we have a counter-proposal." Oh, Krull's amusement was clear even through the translator. "And what would that be?" Miller looked at his crew, saw their ready expressions, their quiet confidence. 3 years of preparation had led to this moment. "We propose," Miller said calmly, "that you pay very close attention to what happens next. The galaxy should know exactly why humans build small ships." As the Drachnid fleet moved to attack position, Miller gave a slight smile. Sometimes, he thought, it was good to be underestimated. The real battle was about to begin. 3 years earlier, Earth Space Command Headquarters. Dr. Alan West stood before the gathered military leaders, his hand shaking slightly as he held his presentation remote. Behind him, the massive screen showed detailed diagrams of his team's breakthrough discovery. "Gentlemen," he began, "what you're looking at is why we're going to surprise the entire galaxy." General Thompson leaned forward, his weathered face serious. "You're telling me this is why we should build smaller ships, not bigger ones like every other race?" "Exactly," Alan said, clicking to the next slide. "Every alien race builds massive ships because they think bigger means better, but they're all missing something crucial." The screen showed 2 diagrams side by side. One was a standard alien reactor core, massive and complex. The other was Alan's new design, remarkably compact, but glowing with intense energy readings. "The aliens are wrong," Alan continued. "Their ships are big because their power systems are inefficient. They need huge reactors to generate enough power. But we found a better way." He walked closer to the screen, pointing to specific details. "Our new fusion containment system uses advanced magnetic fields in ways they've never considered. We can generate the same power as their biggest reactors in a package 1/10 the size." Admiral Rogers spoke up. "And you're sure this works? This isn't just theory." Alan smiled and pressed another button. The lights in the room dimmed as a live feed appeared on screen. It showed a test chamber where a reactor the size of a small car was powering systems that would normally require a reactor 20 times larger. "We've tested it over 100 times," Alan said. "It works. And here's the best part. Because our ships will be smaller, we can do things they can't even imagine." He switched to a new simulation. It showed a small Earth ship dancing around a massive alien vessel, moving in ways the bigger ship couldn't match. Less mass means better maneuverability. Better power-to-weight ratio means faster acceleration. Smaller size means harder to hit. Everything they think is our weakness is actually our strength. The room was silent as the military leaders watched the simulation. Years of feeling inferior to alien technology were being turned on their head. "There's more," Alan said, his confidence growing. "Because our power systems are more efficient, we can put stronger weapons on smaller ships. A vessel 1/10 the size of their cruisers can hit just as hard." General Thompson stood up. "Why wouldn't the aliens have figured this out themselves?" Alan's smile widened. "Because they're stuck in their ways. They've been building big ships for thousands of years. It's tradition. They never questioned if there might be a better way." He clicked to the final slide, showing 3 ship designs. "These are our proposals. Fast, agile, and more powerful than anything their size in the galaxy. They'll never see it coming." The room erupted in discussion. Officers leaned over their tablets, studying the data. Engineers in the back row were already arguing about construction details. "One question," Admiral Rogers said, silencing the room. "How long until we can build these?" "The prototypes are already under construction," Alan replied. 3 years for full testing and crew training. We'll be ready when we make first contact." General Thompson nodded slowly. 3 years to change everything. "Do you realize what this means, Doctor?" "I do," Alan said quietly. "When we join the galactic community, they'll look at our ships and laugh. They'll think we're primitive, weak, maybe even pathetic, and that misconception will be our greatest advantage." The general smiled. Sometimes the best weapon is your enemy's pride. In the following months, Earth's shipyards worked in secret. While the public focused on the excitement of upcoming first contact, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to perfect the new designs. The first test flights proved everything Alan had promised. The new ships were fast, powerful, and incredibly agile. In war games, 3 of them working together could outmaneuver and outfight entire fleets of traditionally sized vessels. Now, 3 years later, those same 3 ships waited in formation, facing down the Drachnid fleet. Everything Dr. West and his team had worked for was about to be put to the ultimate test. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the smartest creatures in the room are the ones being laughed at. The space between Jupiter and Mars fell silent as both fleets took their positions. The 15 massive Drachnid warships formed a perfect attack wall, their huge gun ports glowing with building energy. Against this wall of steel floated 3 tiny human ships, looking like insects before giants. "Final target lock acquired," announced High Commander Kroll from his dreadnought. "Would you like a moment to pray to your gods, humans?" Commander Miller's voice remained calm. "No need, Commander. But you might want to check your targeting systems. You seem to be having trouble locking onto us." Kroll's laughter boomed across the comm channel. "Our targeting systems are the finest in the galaxy. We could hit a meteor from across the solar system." "Really?" Miller replied. "Then why haven't you landed a single hit yet?" The Drachnid fleet opened fire. Massive energy beams cut through space, powerful enough to slice through traditional battleships. But where the beams should have hit the Earth ships, they found only empty space. "Impossible," one of the Drachnid captains shouted. "They're too fast." The 3 Earth ships moved like dancers, their small size and incredible power allowing them to dodge with ease. Each blast from the Drachnid fleet missed by meters, then dozens of meters, then hundreds as the human crews learned the timing of their weapons. In the observation ships, the alien representatives watched in stunned silence. Technical observer Reed's 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he studied his readings. "The power output," he muttered. "How are they generating such acceleration in ships that small?" The Earth ships began their counterattack. Instead of staying in formation, they split apart, each one moving independently. The Swift dove beneath the Drachnid line, the Thunder rolled above it, and the Lightning charged straight ahead. "Their formation is broken," Kroll shouted. "Destroy them while they're separated." But that was exactly what the humans had planned for. Each Earth ship now moved at speeds the Drachnids had never seen before, their advanced engines pushing them to accelerations that would have torn larger ships apart. The Swift appeared behind a Drachnid cruiser, its weapons firing with pinpoint accuracy. The energy beam was small compared to the Drachnid weapons, but it was focused into a perfect strike. The cruiser's shields flickered and died. "Shield penetration impossible," the Drachnid captain screamed. "Our barriers can withstand any." His words cut off as a second shot from the Swift pierced his ship's engine section. The massive cruiser's power failed, leaving it dead in space. On the other side of the battle, the Thunder demonstrated why bigger wasn't always better. It spun on its axis in less than a second, something the Drachnid ships couldn't hope to match, and fired while executing a complex spiral maneuver. 2 more Drachnid ships lost power before they could even turn to face the threat. "Form up. Close ranks," Kroll ordered, but his fleet was already in chaos. The human ships were too fast, too agile. Traditional combat tactics weren't working. The Lightning lived up to its name, striking so quickly that its movements almost couldn't be tracked. It slipped between 2 Drachnid destroyers, causing them to fire at each other as they tried to hit it. In the observation ships, the alien representatives had gone from amused to amazed to terrified. They watched as 3 tiny ships systematically took apart a fleet that could have conquered a small star system. "Do you understand now?" Miller's voice was still calm, as the Swift executed another perfect attack run. Size isn't everything. Speed, skill, and smart design count for more than brute force. The Drachnid fleet, now down 5 ships, tried to regroup. Their remaining vessels formed a defensive circle, concentrating their fire outward, but this only made them a better target for what came next. Miller smiled as his tactical display showed exactly what he'd hoped for. The Drachnids had fallen for the oldest trick in the book. They thought they were safer together. All ships, he ordered, prepare for attack pattern Delta. Let's show them what these tiny ships can really do. The real demonstration of Earth's technology was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. Attack pattern Delta, confirmed. Captain Hayes of the Thunder responded, his ship already moving into position. Delta pattern ready, Captain Wilson added from the Lightning. Commander Miller watched as his 2 companion ships aligned perfectly with the Swift. What looked like random movements to the Drachnids was actually a carefully planned dance. 3 years of training was about to pay off. Activate quantum sync, Miller ordered. Show them what Earth technology can really do. Inside each human ship, new systems hummed to life. The compact fusion reactors pulsed in perfect harmony, their energy readings climbing higher than anything the observing aliens had ever seen from ships so small. On the Council observation vessels, Technical Observer Reed's instruments began to whine and protest. Impossible. Their power output just tripled. The 3 Earth ships began to move in perfect synchronization. Their movements were no longer just fast. They were precisely calculated, each ship's actions complementing the others. They formed a triangle formation again, but this time, energy began to arc between them. What trickery is this? High Commander Kroll demanded, watching as the human ships created what looked like a web of energy between them. No trickery, Miller replied calmly. Just good engineering. Computer, activate linked targeting systems. The AI systems of all 3 Earth ships connected, sharing data faster than any organic crew could process. Each ship's sensors fed information to the others, creating a perfect real-time battle network. Impossible, a Drachnid captain shouted as his targeting systems failed completely. They're generating some kind of interference field. Miller allowed himself a small smile. Not interference. We're just moving faster than your targeting computers can calculate. Maybe if your ships weren't so big and slow. The 3 Earth ships struck as one. The Swift hit from above, the Thunder from below, and the Lightning straight through the middle of the Drachnid formation. Their energy weapons, now linked and synchronized, cut through the alien shields like they weren't even there. How? Kroll roared as another of his ships lost power. Our shields are the strongest in the galaxy. Correction, Miller replied. Your shields are the biggest in the galaxy. We found a better way. In the observation ships, the alien representatives watched in awe as the 3 tiny human vessels executed maneuvers that should have been physically impossible. They moved like they could predict where every shot would be, dodging attacks before they were even fired. Their targeting is perfect, Reed muttered, recording everything. Each shot hits exactly where the other's weapons have weakened the shields. They're not just coordinating. They're fighting as a single unit. The Lightning darted through the Drachnid formation again, its weapons finding weak points that the Thunder's previous attack had created. The Swift followed immediately after, its shots perfectly timed to slip through gaps in the failing shields. 3 more Drachnid ships powered down, their systems overloaded by the precisely targeted strikes. The remaining 7, including Kroll's dreadnought, tried to adapt, but their massive size made them too slow to keep up with the rapidly changing battle. All ships, execute final strike, Miller commanded. Show them our full power. The 3 Earth ships aligned once more, their linked energy systems creating a visible sphere of power between them. Their compact reactors pushed to maximum output, generating more power than most aliens thought possible. This is your last chance to surrender, Miller offered. We don't want to destroy your ships. Krull's response was a roar of defiance and another barrage of heavy weapons fire. But the shots passed harmlessly through the space where the Earth ships had been microseconds before. "Have it your way," Miller said quietly. "All ships, fire." The synchronized blast that followed would be talked about in council chambers for years to come. 3 perfectly timed energy beams struck Krull's dreadnought at precisely calculated points. The massive chute shields flared brilliant blue, tried to compensate, and then failed completely. As Krull's mighty flagship went dark, power systems failing across its enormous hull, silence fell across all communication channels. The galaxy's perception of humanity was about to change forever, and this was just the beginning. The silence in space lasted exactly 37 seconds. Then every communication channel exploded with chatter as the watching alien races tried to process what they had just witnessed. 3 tiny human ships had just defeated the pride of the Drachnid fleet. In the Council observation vessel, Admiral Vex stood frozen, his scaled hands gripping the railing so hard it bent. "This changes everything," he whispered. Technical Observer Reed was already sending urgent messages to the Science Council. "Their technology. We've been looking at it all wrong. The humans didn't build small ships because they were primitive. They built them small because they could." High Commander Krull's dreadnought floated powerless in space, its massive bulk now nothing more than an expensive obstacle. Emergency lights flickered across its hull as backup systems struggled to maintain basic life support. "This is Commander Miller to all Drachnid vessels." Miller's calm voice cut through the chaos. "Your shields are down, your weapons are offline, and your engines are disabled. Do you wish to continue this demonstration?" The response came not from Krull, but from his second-in-command. "This is Acting Commander Dex. We surrender. Please spare our crews." Miller's voice remained professional, showing no hint of triumph. "No need for concern. Our weapons were specifically calibrated to disable, not destroy. Your life support systems will hold, and repair crews can restore power within a few days." In the observation ships, representatives from a dozen worlds were frantically consulting their military advisors. The Granite Collective's crystalline leaders sparkled with agitation. The Unity Hive's group mind was already recalculating centuries of tactical doctrine. "Look!" someone shouted, pointing at the Swift. The human ship had opened previously hidden panels along its hull. Small repair drones, each no bigger than a human hand, emerged and headed toward the disabled Drachnid vessels. "What are they doing?" Admiral Vex demanded. "Helping," Miller replied simply. "These drones will restore emergency power to your ships. We have no desire to leave anyone stranded in space." The drones swarmed over the Drachnid ships, their tiny size allowing them to slip through maintenance hatches and access critical systems. Within minutes, emergency lights began coming back on across the disabled fleet. Technical Observer Reed's sensors went wild again. "The drones, they're as advanced as the ships. Each one has more computing power than some of our civilian vessels." On the Swift's bridge, Commander Miller watched the repair operation with satisfaction. "Status report," he called to his crew. "All systems nominal," Linda Ross replied. "Power usage at 47%, weapons charged but cool, shields at full strength. We could do this twice more without straining the engines." Captain Hayes' voice came through from the thunder. "Same here. These new reactors are amazing. We barely used a quarter of their potential." "Don't tell them that," Captain Wilson chuckled from the lightning. "Let them think this was our full strength." In the Drachnid Dreadnought's emergency-lit bridge, High Commander Krull finally found his voice. "How?" he asked simply. "How did you defeat us so easily?" Miller considered his answer carefully. "We didn't win because our ships were better, Commander. We won because you were so convinced they weren't. Your own assumptions defeated you before the battle began." The repair drones finished their work and returned to the Swift. Emergency power now flowed through all the disabled ships, enough to keep their crews safe until help arrived. "This demonstration is concluded," Miller announced to all channels. We trust there will be no further objections to Earth's trade route applications. Admiral Vex's response was immediate. No objections, none at all. As the three Earth ships formed up to return home, discussions were already raging across the galaxy. How had humans achieved such advances? What other surprises did they have? How would this change the balance of power? But perhaps the most important question came from a young alien observer who whispered to his superior, "If this is what humans can do with just 3 small ships, what could they do with a full fleet?" The answer to that question would keep the galaxy's military strategists awake for many cycles to come. 1 week after the battle, the Galactic Council chamber was packed again. This time, there was no laughter when Ambassador Walker took the platform. Instead, a respectful silence fell across the gathered representatives. Admiral Vex stood in his pod, his scales now a humble shade of gray. The Council has reviewed the events of last week's demonstration. Earth's trade route applications have been unanimously approved. Walker nodded politely. "Thank you, Admiral. Earth appreciates the Council's decision." Before we conclude, Technical Observer Reed spoke up, his tentacles waving excitedly. Would Earth be willing to share some insights about their technological achievements? The Science Council is particularly interested in your power generation systems. Walker smiled. We're open to technological exchange programs under the right circumstances. However, I should mention that what you saw last week was only a small sample of our capabilities. The chamber grew even quieter, if that was possible. "What do you mean?" someone asked nervously. Walker gestured, and a holographic display appeared above the platform. It showed Earth's orbital space, where dozens of shipyards had decloaked, revealing hundreds of ships similar to the 3 that had defeated the Drachnid fleet. "While we were developing our new technologies," Walker explained, "we thought it prudent to prepare a proper fleet. These 500 vessels represent Earth's current defensive force." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Admiral Vex sank back in his pod, his scales turning almost white. 500. High Commander Krull, attending via hologram from his repaired dreadnought, actually stuttered. "Yes," Walker confirmed, "though I should note that these are just our military vessels. Our civilian ships, while not as heavily armed, use the same advanced drive and power systems. We currently have about 2,000 of those." The silence that followed was profound. Every representative was thinking the same thing. If 3 human ships could disable half a Drachnid battle fleet, what could hundreds of them do? "But we're not here to intimidate anyone," Walker continued smoothly. "Earth wants to be a positive member of the galactic community. We're already drawing up plans for joint scientific projects, trade agreements, and cultural exchange programs." Technical Observer Reed couldn't contain himself. "Your technological achievements, they're remarkable. How did humans advance so quickly?" Walker's expression grew thoughtful. "Perhaps because we had to. Earth's resources are limited compared to many worlds. We couldn't build massive ships like other races, so we had to find better solutions. Sometimes limitations breed innovation. And the small size of your ships," Admiral Vex began, "was a choice, not a constraint," Walker finished. "We could have built larger vessels once we developed our compact power systems. But why should we? Bigger isn't always better." The council members looked at each other, centuries of assumptions about space warfare crumbling before their eyes. "What happens now?" someone asked. Walker's smile returned. Now we move forward together. Earth has much to offer the galaxy, and I'm sure we have much to learn as well. After all, making ourselves heard doesn't mean we stop listening." As the council session concluded, representatives hurried to send messages back to their homeworlds. The galaxy's power structure had shifted dramatically in just 1 week. Commander Miller, watching the proceedings from the Swift's bridge in orbit, turned to his crew. "Well, looks like we made quite an impression. Think they'll stop underestimating humans now?" Linda Ross asked with a grin. Miller looked out at the stars. where Earth's full fleet now orbited proudly in plain view? Maybe. But if they don't, we'll be happy to demonstrate our capabilities again. In the weeks that followed, Earth's influence in galactic affairs grew rapidly. Trade routes opened, cultural exchanges began, and scientific cooperation flourished. The species that had once been laughed at for their tiny ships were now sought after as allies and trading partners. And if any race thought about challenging Earth's position, they needed only remember one simple lesson. It's not the size of the ship in the fight, but the intelligence of the design and the skill of the crew that matters. The galaxy had learned its lesson about underestimating humanity. The era of the tiny fleet had begun.